try to keep the camera at eye level so you can kind of get a perspective of things the way I see it. This grass, even though it's just a big open field, normally this would actually be water down here. There'd be a good foot or two of water where I'm standing, so it would be even worse trying to walk through it, but it's real dry now. But this grass, even though it's only just over my head, maybe 6-7 feet tall in spots, it was concealing the river. But I knew I was headed towards water because the ground kept sloping down gradually, and well, because I know the river's over here. I knew if I kept heading south, I'd hit the river. And sure enough, here it is, even though it was hidden by that tall grass. Ooh, wow, there went something. Some big fish. Looks like some old arrowroot or arum. Don't recall the name of that offhand, but there's fish swimming around in it. That's probably a big bass. Probably a big smallmouth maybe. Although, I don't know, it's hard to say. I don't think it was a carp. Yeah, so the river runs right through here, and on the other side there's another big field. You can see where I came. That was probably probably about a 50 to 75 yard walk from the edge of that swampy woods to the river here. But it kind of tuckered me out. That was actually a bit of a challenge walking through that stuff. Real spongy. Looks like we might be gonna get some rain. So I should probably start heading back. And then, like I told you before, you know, I know the sun is right over there somewhere, even though it's behind the clouds now. I need to keep that sun on my left shoulder to get back to the car. I need to head north. It's later in the day now. That sun should actually be pretty much right on my right on the back of my left shoulder, and I'll be heading pretty much due north. See, now this would be a good situation to just go ahead and walk right down the river if you're wanting to make some kind of time, because it's actually, I don't know if it's coming through in the camera, but right in this spot it's not bad, but this grass tends to get well over waist deep, and it's real thick and tangled, and it's really challenging to walk through it. I'm surprised. I'm working up a sweat walking through grass, walking through an open field, but I am. But when we were young, we would just get right in the river and just walk down for miles, and you can make pretty good time. Even though that river snakes and winds around, you're not dealing with going up and down hills and stuff. There's another fish right there. They're coming up in here eating something. I keep seeing them swirl around in these weeds. Oh, too bad I didn't have my fishing pole with me. That might be pike doing that, coming up in those weeds. They'll do that this time of year. It could be any predator fish though, really. Yeah, if I had some gumption, I'd get out there and wade right down. I mean, I can see that it looks like it's only probably 3 feet deep, and it will get over your head in spots, But in that case, you could just, you know, hop out and walk for a distance and then hop back in. Probably not something you'd want to be doing in the winter, but in the fall and summer, it's not bad. Oh, this is a nice spot, nice and peaceful. And you can tell there's just not many people that ever get to this location, unless they're paddling by in a canoe or kayak. It's kind of hard to find that around here. Every once in a while you find a spot like this where there's not many people ever been. That's where I like to just kick back and relax for a few, you know, and just sort of take it in. Oh, there's a great blue heron. Not going to be able to get him. I've been seeing a lot of those lately. It must mean it's swampy over there too. Right back behind me. That was the direction that's the direction I need to go, but I might just have to backtrack out of here. This is a nice spot. It's nice and breezy here too, which is nice after walking through all that tall grass. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and start heading on out of here. Now, before I said I saw, when I was in that swamp and I saw this field, I figured this was where the deer come out at night to screw around and stuff. But now that's probably not the case, because I see that it's actually where they're coming across the river, because this is a real shallow spot in the river and it's nice and open, so it's easy for them to get across. They're probably just using this as a way to get across the river. They can cross anywhere they want up and down the river, but deer will tend to use the easiest path if it's available. If there's no threat or anything, you know, they're just like people in that sense. They're not going to go through a bunch of thick, tangled briars unless they have to. Bunch of stinging nettle growing here. I tried gathering some seeds from that, but they must be awful tiny because I couldn't find any seeds in there. Well, here it is. This is willow. You know, obviously this tree is medicinal, but that's not what this is about. It's about these dead branches. You know, I see a lot of people say, and I'm sure it's true, that willow is really good for friction fire, but I've used this, and this is either black willow or crack willow, and it just does not work for friction fire, not for me anyway. I mean, I have an easier time with eastern red cedars than this. I don't know why that is. I see so many people say it, willow is good for friction fire, but either it's not black or crack willow, or the black willow around here just doesn't work, because man, it's the hardest. It won't even make a brown dust. It just polishes. It doesn't even make dust at all. It's just the hardest wood I've ever tried to get friction fire with. I think I'd have an easier time using oak, but that's just my own experience with it. Good medicine though. Well, here you go, Alan. There's your little muskrat slide. Perfect spot for a snare. You definitely get one if you put a snare there. That might be from a beaver, because I know there are some beaver around here, but it looks a little small for a beaver. So I'm betting it's a muskrat. Just for size. A little bit wider than my hand. I think a beaver would make a bigger hole than that. coming out into this grass from that little side chute of this river. You know, I'm always weary when I walk around the edge of these rivers like this because, especially in grass, mainly with this grass because it hides what's underneath. And if you're walking along the edge, a lot of times there's sections that have eroded away and the grass will be covering it up, and you'll be walking on solid ground for 100 yards. And the next step, you're going down a 5-foot deep hole right into the water, or who knows what. This is getting pretty thick. Sometimes it helps to walk backwards through this stuff. Don't get hung up as much. But I always watch my step, you know, I kind of, before I put my weight down, I make sure there's some ground underneath me. Now, this is going to be tough getting through. There's some more of those wild roses. Yeah, they must like being right down by the water. I'll have to remember that. Right there's another slide. I don't know, when it comes to muskrats, I don't know if you call them slides, but it's basically what it is, where he slides in and out of the water. Another good spot for a snare right there. I normally don't get into habitats like this, but while I'm in here, I haven't seen any yet. But because this is a wet area, this would be a likely spot to run into poison sumac. That's the only place you're going to find it, is really right in the swamp. Oh man, there's another cut in with water. I'm blocked right off on 3 sides. I'm going to have to cut back now that I've came all the way through here. I'm going to have to cut back around and go through that open swampy field to get back. Anyway, I just wanted to show you that. This is a place you're going to run into the poison sumac, if any. And I do see it down in here. Not seeing any today, though. Alright, I gotta get out of here. Man, it's thick.